Well, welcome. Well, I hope you woke up today and said to yourself, maybe I should actually study more about red kidney field beans. If you did, you're in luck today, because that's exactly what we're going to do. Let's talk about it, beans historically. If you take a look at any kind of bean, for the most part, they're legumes. That means legumes are the kind of plants that can take nitrogen gas right out of the atmosphere and then convert it into a nitrate with the help of bacteria. So those are legumes. The other thing is, it used to be considered, especially around the 1920s and 30s when we were going through the Great Depression, if you had beans, a lot of people would say that's the poor man's meat because of the high protein content. Another aspect is beans made fairy tales. Jack and the Beanstalk is one that comes to mind. He was the kid that traded some magic beans for his mother's cows. And that wasn't really popular with Mom. She threw the beans out the window. Next morning, magic beanstalk, where Jack found all of his riches. We should all be so lucky. And then the word bean counters came from, obviously, beans, maybe not kidney beans, but in some times of history, they were not only a commodity, but also they were the base of the financial foundation. In other words, when they were trading goods, they would bring out a scale, and to be the counterbalance for that scale would be beans, and they would count the number of beans to be able to say the value or the worth of something. So that's where the term bean counter came in. And then, of course, lastly, you need to soak beans for about 6 or more hours if you want to cut down on the whole flatulence aspect of things. Oh, man, what? No, that wasn't me. It was the dog. No, really, it's the dog. He's right down here. Riker, did you do that? Was that you? Don't look away. Don't look away. Did you do that? I think you did. You look guilty. Okay, so let's get down to business. What is it that we need to look for when we're judging red kidney field beans? Well, there's basically two things: the reproductive side of things and the non-reproductive side of things. When we look at the reproducible factors inside, like for instance, if you take this seed sample, like this one right here I have on the screen, and we were to plant it out in the field, what other kinds of things do you bring into the party? Are there things like noxious weeds in it? And like here's a picture of dodder, for instance. Dodder, you can see, is kind of a rough seed coat, kind of has a beige or orange color. Also, there are things like field bindweeds. They're triangular and have kind of a rough seed coat, just like dodder. And here's another picture of dodder, and you can see the rougher seed coat better in this picture. And one that seems to be spread in beans is nightshades. This is silverleaf nightshade. Other nightshades that you need to look for is also black nightshade. It has kind of a black seed, a purple seed, and if that juice gets on some of the actual bean seeds, it discolors them and they lose their value. So, with that in mind, let's move on to the varieties. We don't want to see a lot of differences in varieties. Like this one is a dark red, it's on the screen, and then there's light red, and there's white, and there's also ones that are speckled. We don't like to see any of those mixed in with a dark red kidney field bean, primarily because those could cross out in the field and give you kind of a hybrid look in terms of its color and its texture and its size in your seed samples. And then also what we look for are common weeds. This one happens to be Jimson weed, and this next one is a velvet leaf. These are some common weeds that you'll see also. And I want you to kind of take a look at the point deductions also on the little chart that I've provided for you. That gives you kind of a relative value. Now on the non-reproducible side of things, we have the non-reproducible factors. Those things are kind of like the condition of, what kind of condition are the beans in? One of the conditional things is maturity. Maturity has a big part on how well they'll germinate out in the field, as well as how they will do when they're actually in the field. So we're looking for something that's plump and lustrous. That means it has lots of energy stored so it can germinate and have a lot of seed vigor out in the field and compete. The other thing is its uniformity. Not only in a physical way like size, shape, and color, But also, when we were taking a look at actually the seed planter or the air planter, they have certain size holes or notches in the disc that they need to fit in. If they're too small, too many seeds get in and too many seeds are planted in one hole, or they're too big and they don't get planted at all, so you have blanks. The other thing is freedom from damage, whether it be mechanical damage, whether it be water damage, insect damage, anything like that. When we look at freedom from damage, we're also looking for things like slips, that means when the seed coat comes off, or breaks in the seed itself, or cracks. And then lastly, freedom from any kind of foreign material, that's like chaff, maybe some inert material, those kinds of things. Now that you've seen what you're looking for, let's take about 2 minutes and give you an opportunity to actually judge this sample. See you in Time's up. How'd you think you did? Well, according to the screen, it was 4, 3, 2, and 1. So let's kind of get into it, give you a sample set of reasons, and explain why we did what we did. Sir, I placed this class of red kidney field beans in the order of 4, 3, 2, and 1. In my first place today, I put plate number 4. Plate number 4 was a very lustrous, plump seed with, I believe, what is the best condition in today's class. If you notice, it's free of any kind of noxious weed, crops, or any other kind of varieties. Even though it does have a dirt clod, which is inert material, I believe this one is going to have the greatest germination rate and the most seed vigor that we see today. In second place today, I put sample number 3. Sample number 3 had some obvious condition problems. We have two different kinds of damages here. We have the water damage, as you can see in these shriveled seeds that we have in this plate, as well as if you look at the arrow, you'll notice that there are some broken kernels, broken beans as well. It has some slips and breaks in the seed coat. The other thing that concerns me in this particular plate is it has curly dock and pigweed. So that's why I put it in second place today. Following up into the third place position today is plate number 2. Plate number 2 is a fairly well-conditioned seed, but I have to knock it primarily down into third place because of the two common weeds, Jimson weed and also barnyard grass. This will compete with the crop and will probably have a little bit lower yield in the field because of it. And then, in my last place sample today, I put plate or sample number 1. Sample number 1 had some issues in terms of a mixture of crop, that being black-eyed bean. Also, in addition, it had noxious weed. Noxious weed being field bindweed. It restricts the sale of this seed and, of course, dips into our profit, and that's why I placed it last. Just a real quick overview. My critique is 4, 3, 2, and 1 with cuts of 3, 5, and 7. And the reason we have a hefty amount of cut at the end is because you should have seen that field bindweed in it, as well as the black-eyed bean, because it's fairly obvious. Now, as it has been my custom, I'd like to always end with some thought of the day, and this one is from former President Thomas Jefferson. Our greatest weakness lies in giving up. The most certain way to succeed is always try one more time. When Thomas Edison was asked about the electric light bulb and what he learned, he said, well, I was really successful at least I knew 9,000 ways in which it won't work. Another famous failure that I like to look at is Abraham Lincoln, our 16th president. He had failed businesses. He had a nervous breakdown. He lost his first bid for the presidency. One of the things about failure, as far as our 16th president was concerned, was his attitude about it. He said, my greatest concern is whether or not you failed, but whether you are content with your failure. How about you? What are you content with? See you at the next contest. Bye.